The truth occurs.
Hi everyone. Well, the Catholics have a new pope, and it's not someone from the short list. It's Jorge Mario Bergoglio from Argentina, and he's the first Jesuit pope. And in the media, some are highlighting this pope's exceptional humility. According to this article, he went to the hotel and picked up his own luggage, something no pope has done before. Meanwhile, others are saying that Jorge Bergoglio played a sinful role in Argentina's dirty war. This was indeed an extremely dirty war. I am no expert in South American politics, but it goes something like this. The president, Juan Perón, was ousted in the early 50s after a couple of terms. He then came back and he served one more year from 72 to 73, and then he died. And what happened in the meantime was that when he was gone, Peronism became illegal. And there were all these guerrilla groups. There were the Perón supporting groups, and there were other groups, and there was a lot of guerrilla fighting going on. So he was followed then by Isabel Martinez de Perón. And then a military coup d'etat was performed in, I think it was 1976. And a military junta came in and implemented a military dictatorship. But what happened was, when this military dictatorship took over with the backing of the US, I might add, and let me just show you this article. From The Guardian, Kissinger approved Argentinian dirty war. Kissinger was at the time the American Secretary of State, and he gave this coup d'etat the green light. So what happened during this coup, when the military dictatorship took over, was that they did a kind of purge, and they got rid of a lot of people, basically anyone who went against their agenda, which included Perón supporters and these Perón supporting guerrilla groups, but also journalists, people who were supporting unions, activists, all kinds of people. And they actually kidnapped somewhere between 10,000 to 30,000 people and killed many of them. Some of them ended up in concentration camps. Many of them were killed, and really they did some very disgusting, disturbing things, like they would take these people who were called the desaparecidos because they all disappeared. They would take them and drug them, bring them up in a plane or a helicopter, and handcuff them foot to hand so that they would be linked, one's hands would be linked to the next person's foot. And then they would throw them like that into the ocean. They also went after the priests and some of the Jesuits who were working in the slums of Buenos Aires. And they also did another thing, which was, when they kidnapped these people, some of the women were pregnant, and sometimes they kept them alive long enough to give birth, and then they stole their babies and gave or sold them to prominent families. So they basically were engaging in human trafficking. Not all these women died, and they later convened in the Plaza de Mayo in Buenos Aires, and they're known as the Abuelas de Mayo, or the Abuelas of the Plaza de Mayo. These are the mothers of the children who were snatched and given to other families during the Dirty War. The mothers, and sometimes the relatives of the mothers, who have been looking for these children that had been taken away by human trafficking. So what does this have to do with the new, as he is now known, Pope Francis? Well, according to the investigative journalist Horacio Verbitsky, he says that the Pope acted in complicity with this regime, as in that he did not offer protection to some of the Jesuit priests that were persecuted. But he also apparently knew about the baby snatchings, and when asked by one of the women to intervene to get a baby back, he said that this baby had been placed with a prominent family and could not be removed. According to this article, he said that the baby had been given to a family that was too important to remove it from. So they're saying that this is proof that he knew about this regime's practice of stealing babies from the victims. Yet, he testified in 2010 that he had no knowledge of stolen babies until after the military regime fell. In addition, they mention here that he also hid political prisoners from a delegation of visiting international monitors from the Inter-American Human Rights Commission. And he was also silent in the wake of Father Angelilli's assassination, even as other leading Argentine clergy condemned the murder. So there are these accusations against him, but some are saying But according to this article, the new pope's role during Argentina's military era is disputed. So while Horacio Verbitsky is leveling these accusations against Bergoglio, and he's not the only one. There are others in Argentina, actually members of the Abuelas de Mayo, who have been asking the courts to bring him in to have him testify. The Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo, sorry. They're asking courts to, and I'm going to give you the links, they're asking the court to bring Bergoglio in as a witness, because he was at the very least a witness. So meanwhile, while some are leveling these accusations against him, others, according to this article here from The Guardian, say that Verbitsky is not wrong, but he doesn't understand the complexity of Bergoglio's position back then when things were so dangerous. Well, that's the same excuse that people used during the Nazi era. So if that's the best they can come up with, well, that's not very good. It's certainly not good enough for the ITCCS, which is the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, of which Kevin Annett is the field secretary. And by the way, I will be interviewing Kevin Annett tonight on my radio show on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. The show is called The Truther Girls, and it's from 10 to midnight Eastern Standard Time tonight. And I'll give you the link in the more info section. So this is from the ITCCS. Accused criminal becomes first Jesuit pope. Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio tainted with dirty war allegations, new pontiff of Rome. The ITCCS, which is the head location is in Belgium, has issued arrest warrants for 28 people, including former Pope Ratzinger, the Queen of England, and now also Pope Francis, that's Bergoglio, for, well, crimes against humanity, the crimes of church and state. And they actually served a notice to the Vatican to notify them of their arrest warrant for Pope Benedict. And it was just shortly after this that Pope Benedict resigned. So maybe they had something to do with that resignation. For the ITCCS, this has been a long fight. It has a lot to do with the worldwide practice of genocide, murder, in complicity with the states in which this occurs. And in Canada especially had to do with the genocide against the natives and these residential schools in which in the early days as much as 50% of the resident children died. And that the bones of these children have never been returned to the family. There's never been any accountability. I mean, look, everybody I'm talking to here probably knows that the church has been guilty or has been accused by many people of engaging in pedophilia. Well, this is widely known. Pedophilia, and yet there's never any accountability. Murder, genocide, basically war against the entire non-Catholic world. And there's no accountability. And as I've mentioned before, this has something to do with the fact that as a church, they're a distinct society. And so they fall outside of the jurisdiction of our normal criminal courts. And that's why they have their own laws that they can make unto themselves. But this is a common law court, which is demanding that they be held accountable according to common law. And so they've now also issued an arrest warrant for the new Pope Francis. And what they say here is that besides his personal alleged criminality, Bergoglio as a Jesuit represents the group most responsible for the centuries-old crimes against humanity and genocide for which the Jesuit Superior General was found guilty on February 25th, along with Joseph Ratzinger and other Vatican officials. This is by their common law court. So I'm going to be interviewing Kevin Annett again tonight on the radio to get an update. And I would like for you to join me, and also please join me in the chat room, which is truthergirls.chatango.com. And please leave me your comments on this issue of what you know about it. And when you join us, please feel free to put your questions in the chat room. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.